Boom. That's my attempt to lull you into a meditative state with my chanting. Hopefully you didn't fall asleep or... Anyways, you are listening, you know it, to the Energy is Love podcast. Everybody, thank you for supporting the show. Remember, go find all of our episodes at energieslovepodcast.com. Also, if you subscribe to us on iTunes, take a minute, click on the rate and review button, and let us know what you think. We always like hearing from our listeners. And if you rate and review the show on iTunes, it helps the podcast grow and expand. So that's a great, great way to support the show. On our website as well, we've got all of the links to our social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those kind of fun things. Recently, we were in Estevan, Canada. Talk about weird, obscure places where you can travel. Well, we got to travel there, and while we were there, we found this really cool little metaphysical shop, Soul Hideout. We did a Facebook Live video with the owner, Roxy. So that's on our website as well. Go to our Facebook page. You can watch all of our Facebook Live videos. They're just fun little ways to do quick interviews with random people in random places. So if you haven't already, go check them out. Thank you for sharing the show if you have already. If you haven't, get off your spiritual ass and go share the show so people can expand their minds and we can raise the vibration of the planet. energieslovepodcast.com. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by one of our wonderful sponsors, As Above, So Below. They're located in Roy, Utah. As Above, So Below is a wonderful place to find everything that you could possibly imagine for your spiritual journey, your spiritual practices, your experience into the cosmos. They have it all. Go check them out. We have links to all of our sponsors as well as Above, So Below on our website. Just click on the sponsors tab. As Above, So Below also hosts classes on a regular basis. Coming up on November 3rd, they will have an herbal magic class. That's a wonderful opportunity if you're interested in learning about herbs and plants and trees and all the ways that you can incorporate them into your spiritual practice. So, November 3rd is the first class, and throughout the month of November, it'll be every Thursday. It's a great, great opportunity if you are interested in any of those things. You can contact As Above, So Below directly to learn more about them. So go check them out and show them some love. Tell them you heard about them on the Energy is Love podcast. We are also brought to you by Crystal Water Float Spa located in Twilla, Utah. crystalwaterfloat.com. Crystal Water Float Spa on Facebook. At Crystal Water, you get to lay back and float in wonderful, beautiful, amazing dream pods. If you haven't enjoyed floating yet, I don't know why. You are waiting. It's a beautiful experience. If you live out in the area, come crawl inside a tank at Crystal Water and see and feel and experience all the benefits of floating. Crystal Water Float is also the U.S. national distributor, the only company in the nation distributing dream pods. So if you are looking to open up a float center locally in the U.S. somewhere, or Canada, or probably anywhere, contact Crystal Water Float because now you can get your pod shipped out directly to you. Learn more about Dream Pods at dream-pod.com. And then when you are ready and wanting a tank, contact Crystal Water Float. On this episode of the podcast, I got to chat it up with this super cool gal named Jennifer Schlueter. Hopefully I pronounced her name right. Somehow I managed to find guests with really difficult names to pronounce, but that's cool. Jennifer is a travel blogger that I found online. I don't even remember how I came across her stuff. But she has one of those jobs that is really unique and exciting. She essentially travels the globe floating. You can find her at travelingfloater.com, and she came on the podcast to share her experiences with that amazing job. She left her regular 9-to-5 job and decided she was going to hop on planes and travel the globe, writing about it, sharing about it, spreading awareness for floating, which is what we like to do with the podcast as well. So that's what she does now. And she was a really fun guest. We had a really good interview. I think at the time of recording, Jennifer was in Germany, if I'm not mistaken. And she's got a lot of cool places planned coming up in the future. So go check her out at travelingfloater.com. You can follow her on Instagram and Facebook and all those different places. We've got links to that in the show notes. But now you guys get to sit back and relax and enjoy this fun, relaxing, cool episode dedicated to floating because it's a float story. Jennifer is a perfect float story because she essentially writes float stories. So sit back and relax. Jennifer Schlueter. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Jennifer, on the Energy is Love podcast. Here we go. A podcast for the universe.
You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is the Love podcast.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is Love podcast.
The podcast for the universe.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Hey, Jennifer.
Hey, Craig.
Thank you so much for taking the time. Where in the hell are you right now?
Well, I'm actually in a really small town visiting my friend. He lives close to Kaiserslautern in Germany. It's a very small town, but it's very beautiful. Never been there.
Very, very cool. I was super excited when I found your stuff online. I don't remember how I came across it. It's always one of those things where, do you know what I mean? You're on Facebook, or I don't even know if it was on Facebook where I found your information for the traveling floater and everything like that. But when I came across it, I was really excited because you kind of have a really cool thing that you're doing, and I wanted to talk to you about it.
Well, thank you so much. It's really great to hear that because I just started like literally 2 months ago.
Oh, cool. So it's Jennifer Schlueter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So pronounce your last name properly so that everybody has the opportunity to hear it as it's supposed to be spoken.
Schlueter.
Yeah, probably. We'll figure that out.
Totally fine.
So first off, I want to know, where are you originally from?
I was born and raised in a small town called Schwäbisch Hall in Germany. And I lived there until I was 18. Then I moved to Hamburg in Germany. And then I moved to the States when I was 19 to LA.
You live in LA currently?
I quit my job in April to travel the world. And I will be back in LA at some point, though, because it has become home.
Yeah. So for the most part, do you just travel from place to place to place?
As for right now, I travel from place to my mom, back to a place to my mom. And in November or December, I'm trying to be on the road for good.
Well, neat.
Trying to save up a little more money and to be on the road for good.
What did you do before you started this whole journey?
I was a newspaper editor for newspapers in California, in Southern California.
And having grown up in Germany, what was it like to come to the States and come? I mean, did you originally go straight to LA, move to California right off the bat when you were 19?
I went to the States my first time when I was 10. I went to Florida for vacation. And, when you grow up in Germany, you watch a lot of movies and you hear a lot of the music, and I was always drawn to it. And then when I was 16, I had the chance to do an exchange for 4 weeks. And I remember I put on my application that I like palm trees and swimming pool and stuff. And they got me an exchange partner in California, while other people went to like Kansas or just other states. And then I was lucky to have come to California. And I was there for 4 weeks, and I absolutely loved it. And my exchange family was great. They showed me around. I was in Mission Viejo in Orange County,
Mm-hmm.
and they showed me LA, San Diego, Las Vegas, and I was just like, wow, I have to move here. And so I did everything I could, and things worked out really well. And then I just applied for college in California, and when I was 19, I left Germany.
That's way cool. Is it a move that you were happy about?
Oh, absolutely. I would not change it for the world.
Yeah.
It was great.
Well, first off, because we give a little intro, obviously, so everybody has an idea of kind of who you are and what you're doing and everything like that. But I want to talk. The cool thing is that we get to talk a lot about floating because you're the traveling floater. And so you get the opportunity to go all over the world, checking out different places and floating in different locations and stuff. How did you come up with this idea? I mean, I guess I understand the need or the desire or the want to kind of travel. But what was it about floating that you wanted to incorporate into it first off?
Well, so first heard about floating last year, and then I forgot about it, and then and a Tinder date actually brought me onto it in February. And so he was like, yeah, we should go floating. And I was like, okay. But then I ended up going floating by myself. You know how Tinder dates go.
Yeah.
So I went floating by myself. And I absolutely loved it. And I was like, oh, this is actually amazing. And so I went in LA a few times. And then in July, I went in Germany once. And I hadn't been floating since, because I hadn't been floating for like 3 months. And then I went in Germany in July. And it ended up being a really bad experience. And my friend, was like,
what happened?
Yeah.
Why was it a bad experience? Was it the place that you were floating, or was it the float itself? Or
it was the place that I was floating at. It was basically horrible customer service, so to say. And it was also, there was a dance studio on top of the float center, or of the float place. Literally on top of the floating tank, there was a dance studio. And it was already 9 p.m. when I came there, and I drove there for 1.5 hours. And the guy told me, oh yeah, it's going to be over in like 30 minutes. And I was like, okay. So I'm paying for the time pretty much, you know? And I'm like, and he's like, yeah, you can stay until midnight. It's going to be over soon. And I was like, okay. But then after like, it didn't end after like 40 or 50 minutes. I went outside and I was like, hey, this is it. I don't want to do this anymore. And, fortunately, he didn't let me pay. Like, he was like, yeah, you don't have to pay if you didn't like it. But there was no apology, no nothing from him. So he was just like, okay, just leave.
Were you waiting to get into the tank, or were you in the tank while everybody was upstairs dancing?
I was in the tank while everybody was upstairs dancing, moving chairs and everything.
You know, that's interesting. My guess is that's probably an aspect of traveling around. It's probably really interesting to see how people not just build their facilities and the places because that's a new one for me. I've never heard of a float spa or a float center built underneath a dance studio.
I don't know what happened there. Maybe they moved in after. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt that they moved in after.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose if you're renting a place, you can't pick your neighbors out.
No. Yeah, and so it was a bad experience. And my friend, she was like, hey, you should write about it because you write about things. And I was like, you're right, I should. And so since then, I've been kind of gathering information about, what if you call yourself a float center, you should be offering floating and not floating with a dance studio on top, or like I'm sure you know Ashkan, and he was floating. He told me his partner Graham told me the story in Paris where he had the lights on the whole time, and I was like, if you advertise floating, then it should be nothing else but floating. Sensory deprivation, no sound, no lights, no nothing. So I'm going to write about it, and I'm still researching for this article. And then my friend, she was like, why don't you make floating your travel blog niche? Because nobody has it. Everybody has solo female travel. Everybody has food or fashion and travel or whatever, but nobody has floating. And I was like, wow, that's an amazing idea. And that's how it came about.
Well, very cool. It is a good idea. I think it's, you just got started with it, you said 2 months ago, about 2-3 months.
Yeah.
But I think it's a wonderful opportunity as a way to kind of spread awareness, because that's one of the things that's why we highlight floating with the podcast, because it's such an amazing thing and it has so many benefits. And we could just go on and on and on about all the wonderful things when it comes to floating. But essentially it's, we like to think, I think we like to think that it's gaining awareness and that it's gaining in popularity. And I think it is. But at the end of the day, there's still a lot of people that have no idea what the hell floating is.
Yes, and I think the world could be so much better if everybody floated. This world would be so peaceful.
So far up to date, how many places have you floated at? How many places have you been?
It's not been that many since I've really just started. And so it's been 2 in LA and 2 in Paris and 2 in London and 1 in Germany. And I'm planning to visit another one in Germany.
How do you find, are you just online Googling and locating places and things like that? Or
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I just type in float tanks, or, I go to where to float or float locations or whatever. And that's how I find the places. And then I write them. And I also, I do interviews too. that I feature on my website, and everybody has been really responsive so far. And and even through my Instagram and through my Facebook, I'm getting invites from people. Hey, come to Canada, come float in our center, and it's been really, really an amazing response, and I'm so grateful for it.
So do you pick a location that you want to travel to and then find a float center, or do you pick a float center and then decide, well, I guess I can find something else to do there?
Well, by now, I was thinking about my next move should be South Africa, but now I'm like, there's only one float center, so I maybe should go to Dubai because there's a little more, or I should... Somebody told me in Paris, somebody that I met in a float center, she told me that Tel Aviv it has really... is very great about, holistic medicine and all that. And they're also into floating. So I might go there. And I also have to look for places that work together with travel bloggers, because that's another important thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously.
So I kind of do both, like floating and traveling, and always look for both.
So you mentioned in Tel Aviv some holistic healing or medicine or something like that. Is that an aspect of... is that a part of floating that you connect with, the kind of the deeper holistic spiritual side of it?
Absolutely. Like also meditating in a float tank is just, there's nothing better than that. And I just believe it's such a thing that's close to nature, close to how it like right now, everything with technology, and you have so many distractions, everything, and in there you have nothing. And it's so close to your mind, yourself. And a lot of people are afraid of that. Like a lot of people that I've talked to, they're like, why would you be with yourself for an hour? That's so scary. And then some people, they're like, okay, now since you're so excited about it, I have to try it. I'm like, yes, please do. And then they come out of it and they're like, oh, this is actually not too bad, And I've never heard anyone say anything bad about it. All the people that I sent to and that actually went floating, they've never said anything bad about it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, meditation. Was that something that you were practicing before you got into floating?
Yes.
How did you get into meditation?
A friend of mine, actually the friend that I'm with right now, we've known each other for 10 years, and he learned me pretty early on, but I haven't been... early, when I was 19 or 20, I wasn't really thinking about meditation a lot.
Yeah.
But for the last, I would say the last 3 to 4 years, I've been into it, and I'm doing either guided meditations or meditations by myself. And in the float tank, like I said, there's nothing better. So it's great.
I agree. That's kind of one of the reasons why I seeked out floating, was a way to kind of enhance my meditation initially. Mm-hmm. And it did. It did. My first time floating kind of sucked, and I had all these high expectations of I was going to go in the tank and have these incredible out-of-body experiences. And so I was already meditating at that point and had a pretty good practice in place. And then when I floated for the first time, it just was kind of not exactly what I thought it would be. I liked it. It was just I had to commit to it.
Yeah. So has your meditation changed since you've been floating? Probably yes, right? Or how has it?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that if anything, because I'll still meditate when I float. I'll still have those experiences inside the tank. I'll still have, do you know what I mean, some really unique things. Now I use floating for more of the variety of different things that it offers. So I do go in there with the intention of meditation, and 9 times out of 10, I will have a really nice, deep spiritual experience, I guess. But at the same time, I mean, they're so beneficial, and my body feels so much better after floating. I usually spend at least 5 or 10 minutes in there just stretching and cracking my back and doing all those sorts of things. And then as far as outside of floating, I think it's helped with my meditation practice when I'm not in the tank as well, just because you get a really good experience, obviously, of letting go and being patient and being in that space of the tank because of that environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's helped cross over. Excuse me. What has been your favorite place up to date so far? Not necessarily because of the floating, but just the place in general that's been the coolest.
Names or places?
Either or.
Okay, I'm just going to go with the place because I think there are so many. So the U.S. has probably one of the most floating locations in the world. So, and it's most known in the US. So people, it's been around a little bit, and people are perfecting it, I would say, even. Like in LA, I had great floats because there was no water dripping from the ceiling. There was no sound. It was just amazing. And I had the best floats there, I would say. And also I prefer chambers because I'm a tall person and I have lots of space in them. So I would say LA has been the best so far. And I also eventually I do want to open my own float center there. And I want to work with people also who are first, I need to get I need to go to float center and work there for a little while so I can get my experience.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to open up a float center in LA eventually.
Where were you floating in LA?
At Just Float and at Float Lab.
And you say like the chamber's better?
Yeah, for me personally.
Yeah. What is it like? Because that would be the other neat thing is you get to experience probably a lot of different variety in what people have to offer when it comes to floating. Because I don't think people necessarily realize that, especially people that aren't really into floating or in the industry or something like that. But there's such a wide variety of places and you've got pods and you've got tanks and you've got cabins and all these different things when it comes to floating.
Yeah, for me it's definitely like the rooms, so to say, the chambers that are the best because I'm tall and I like having more space. And also I like that it's not as enclosed as like in a pod or in a tank.
Do you get claustrophobic at all?
I don't really. I actually really don't. But it just makes me feel better.
Yeah.
There's a little more space, and yeah, so I can stand up in it. Sort of. It's nice. It's just a good feeling for me. I don't know why.
For the most part, has the response from people that you reach out to been pretty positive, or people kind of like game with whatever, and you're like, yeah, that'd be cool, or? Every
single one has been positive. And especially. That's why I love floating and the float industry as well. I have not gotten a negative response, except that one float center I went to. But everybody else has just been so positive and supportive, and they've all invited me, and they wanted to know about my journey. So it's been really good. It's been really great, and it gives me also the feeling that what I'm doing is the right thing. There was one time in Paris I came out of the float tank, and I was like, wow, I am doing what I'm doing right now is the right thing. I'm spreading floating. I'm spreading something that's purely good, that has only benefits. Like I haven't heard any negatives or whatever. And so everyone I talk to is giving me the same response. Like the best thing about having a float center is the response from people when the clients get out of the float tank, whether it's their first float or their 10th or their 100th float. It's just the great response that they get, and that's why they love it. And I've always wanted to do something that is beneficial for people, and that it's not about making money or whatever. It's just benefiting people. So it's just great.
It really is, and a lot of times when we try to talk to people about floating, especially if they have no idea what it is, then I always feel like I'm feeding some big line of BS because I'm rattling off all of these benefits and all of these things that you can get from it. And I mean, the fact is, most of them are true. Well, all of them are true. I'm not lying to people, but it's like it will hit some corner of something for somebody regardless. Everybody should be floating in some way, shape, or form because there's so many benefits from it.
I totally agree.
So because you travel so much, what's one of the things that you dislike? Like, what is something about this experience and traveling and doing all this stuff that really just kind of is the biggest pain in the ass?
So the biggest pain is to basically put your life out there so you have followers, so people want to work with you. Because if you don't have that, if you don't have an outlet, then people are like, oh, whatever, what's that going to do for us if she's going to come and look at our place or go on our tour or whatever. So you have to basically put your life out there, and you have to be consistent with it. It's not a pain necessarily. I love doing it, but it's just a thought about it. It's like, am I doing this for me or am I doing this for my followers? And I do want to do it so that I have a great experience, but I always have to be like, posting great photos, posting a great text, and really think about the things that I post. And then you, and kind of like sometimes I just want to go to a place and I just want to experience it. I don't want to have no phone, no computer, no camera with me, just to soak it all in and experience it. And as a travel blogger, that kind of gets lost, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. That would definitely be something. I mean, maybe you should make the opportunity and the time to do that once, is, you know what I mean? Or go back.
Or just, just have, if I'm going somewhere for a week, just take one day where I'm not going to do any of that, like where I'm not going to be on my laptop, on my phone or whatever. But I can't complain. I have a great job now, I can call it. And I really can't complain about it. There's nothing I would rather do. So, and incorporating the floating has been the best decision also. It's been great. So, yeah.
It's such a great way to, have you found it all too? This is a weird question. I don't know if this is a weird question or not, but it helps with jet lag, does it not? Like, do you find that when you're traveling, if you get in the tank and float, it's going to help with that aspect of it?
Well, since I've done it in LA and I wasn't jet lagged there, and in London is only a 2-hour time difference, I can't really say that yet. But I will definitely let you know once I'm in like Australia, where there's a 12-hour time difference, if it has helped me with my jet lag, because then I will need it. Or if I go back to LA, if there's a 9-hour time difference again, then I will definitely need it.
Yeah.
But I've heard it, and the one center also that I interviewed in Australia, they said they get a lot of travelers and it helps them with jet lag. So I am excited to try that. I really want a cure against the jet lag.
So because it's the podcast, it's you said you'd had a chance to listen to some of the episodes and everything like that. I want to get into some deeper kind of spiritual stuff. Mm-hmm. Because first off, if you would tell me if you've had, and maybe you haven't, but what is one of the kind of deepest spiritual experiences that you've had inside the tank?
It was actually my first float where I've had like an out of body experience. That's why I loved it so much. And it's just been decisions that, like, I come out of the float tank and I was like, whoa, I just made the decision on a topic that was really on my mind. And that was, and I didn't even know it was, but then I come out and I have the solution for it. And that's been the greatest experience. Like that one time I told you about in Paris, I just came out and I was like, whoa, I'm doing the right thing. And then I came up with all these things that I want to add to the website of the traveling floater. So like an introduction, like a Q&A and all these little things that I was like, wow, I didn't even actually think about it, but then in the float tank I did, and I didn't even know that I did, sort of. I come out and I have all these solutions, and I was like, wow, that's great.
Tell me about your out of body experience the first time. What was that like?
I could only hold it for like a very little amount of time, unfortunately, for a few seconds, and it was just something like I was just stunned. I was like, wow, if I can do this in my first time, what can I do if I practice this even more? And it was just so, I never had that before. I was going to say,
was that something that you were kind of familiar with, or how would you describe that experience if you didn't have any sort of parameter to place it in?
I would say it's for the first time, especially, it's like, and I haven't had it since then. So it was weird, but it was also like, wow, this is what people have. I've heard about it before, and I was like, this is what people are actually talking about it. So now I know that it can be real, and it is something that you can actually achieve because you set your mind to it. So that's, I think that was great.
Yeah, that is great, especially your first float. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I know. I was just stunned, and then after I felt relaxed and energized, and I was like, high. My first post about floating actually was like, if you want to get high, but if you don't want to take any drugs, just go floating, because sometimes it can happen.
Yeah, it can definitely give you that same kind of similar sensation and feeling.
Yeah.
Do you chase that high in a sense when you float now? Is that something that you try to accomplish or reach, or?
I probably did for the first 2 times after I got that high, but then I was like, no, that's not a good idea to just do that, because then I will be disappointed if I don't get it. So now I just go in and I was like, okay, either I have a topic that I want to make a decision about, and I say, okay, I want to think about this, or I just go in and be like, okay, I'm just going to meditate and see what happens and go with the flow. And also I learned that I told people what I experienced the first time, and I thought, like, Well, now it's actually, it was a bad idea because they have all these expectations. They go in with all these expectations. So I kind of slowed down on telling people what can happen, like everything that can happen.
Yeah. Almost an information overload.
Yeah, I learned that, but because I know one of my friends went and he was disappointed. He was like, "Well, I didn't get what you got," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. It takes time for some people."
One of the things that I believe in personally, and sometimes it comes up in topics of conversation during the podcast and some interviews and things like that, is the idea that we are being not necessarily guided, but that the universe kind of spins in such a way that we're always kind of right where we need to be, and the stars will align and synchronistic things will happen in order to essentially place us in the most productive place possible, I guess, is a easy way to describe it. But if you look at your life, obviously this is probably something that you know, if you rewind a year ago or 2 years ago, you would never, imagine first off that you'd be traveling around and floating and all this kind of stuff. But can you go back a little bit and look and see where things and events and experiences have kind of lined up to lead you to this point?
You know what? That's great that you're talking about this right now because I believe in it 100%. And since April, since I've quit my job and started traveling and started being on this journey of, I'm glad that I have my mom, that she's supporting me a little bit, but still I have to be on my own. And it's just been this year, that belief was tested the very most. Like I constantly had to be like, okay, the universe is looking out for me. Basically, I have to trust in it. I have to trust my path and my process and everything. And this year, I have learned this the very most. There's so many times where I was like, oh, I want to quit this. I want to go back to LA. I want to get my job back. I just want to be in a safe surrounding where I get my paycheck every single week on a Friday and where I have my regular life. But being on a path where you're on your own and where you want to make money, like freelancing or travel blogging, something that's so unsafe and basically not secure, like you don't have a secure income, it's really scary. And that way you really, really learn how to trust the universe. And I've been also listening to podcasts and guided meditations and everything to just strengthen that belief.
And you find that it has been that in a sense, like, because that's a huge thing, especially so many times people, I think, get stuck in a job or stuck in a space and they have a really hard time stepping into it because of fear of, like you said, it's not necessarily the most secure thing, especially financially. And we place so much on finances and on money and thinking that unless we have that stability, then somehow we're not going to be happy. And so as somebody that's kind of embraced that aspect of moving into that fear, I guess, of the unknown, what are some of the benefits that you have found from that?
Well, also, I was going to say too, last year I remember in April, I remember I wrote down in my journal, I was like, the next year I want to travel, my perfect day the next year, what it would look like. And it said that I want to travel. I want to be invited to places, to speak and I just want to travel. And it has come true. And that just gives me reassurance that really you can put your mind to anything and everything, whatever you want, you can visualize yourself. And I've been seeing that video from Jim Carrey, how his story, like how he wrote himself a check for $10 million or whatever. Uh-huh. And he visualized himself every single night on Mulholland Drive. And he finally got to the point where it came true. And that just gives me reassurance that this law is working out. And it's also like better things also come up. Like I didn't even know about floating last year in April or so, like I didn't even know that was going to happen for me this year. So the universe works out for you or makes things work out for you in an even better way too. Especially when you float. Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, it's I think you just got to trust and believe that it will, and you really have to want it. You have to want it 100%. I've always wanted to travel the world 100%. I was and take pictures and just talk to people and get to know people in different places in the world, and I've always wanted that, and the universe had made it work, had made made it work for me.
Yeah. One of the things too that I think, and I mean, when I say I think, this is something that I believe, is a lot of times when we move into those spaces where we're kind of embracing the fear, I guess, and moving towards something that we kind of want, a lot of times, sometimes it starts to unfold in a way that we didn't necessarily intend or that we didn't necessarily imagine, I guess is a better way to describe it. When you started out with this whole concept and idea, and yeah, this is something that I'm going to try to do, have you seen it adapt and change in subtle ways that you didn't necessarily expect?
You mean the travel blogging or the floating or?
Yeah, just the whole thing of I'm going to travel the world and float at different places and write about it.
Well, I didn't think it was going to be that hard because, see, obviously, because so my mind is set to making money from this travel blog and nothing else. So I've told my mom for the longest time, I was like, Mom, I don't want to take a job. I don't want to take a part-time job. I just want to make money from the travel blog and from whatever else I'm doing online that I can make money with. But I do not want to go back to a 9-to-5 or a part-time or whatever it is. I just want to do this. And so it's been hard, but also, you know, I have a tattoo actually that says replace fear of the unknown with curiosity. So I just let myself basically fall into this, and I didn't think it was going to be that hard or take that long. Like it took me quite a long time.
Yeah.
But now it's definitely coming to fruition, and it's definitely been a great journey, and I'm embracing it, and I'm embracing the unknown because I really don't know where I'm going to be, but it's going to be, because I had planned it completely different. I had planned I was going to leave Germany for good in August. I was going to go to Africa in August, starting in August and staying there until December. Then I planned to go to Brazil, to Peru, to then back to LA, and nothing has worked out as planned, but it's fine. It's okay. You know, I know it'll be fine in the end. So it's okay.
That's my thought. It's like, that's the thing. I'm sitting here. I think if you were to hold space in that area of like the unknown, right? I'm going to do this, and this is my intention, and this is my purpose. But if you can remain open, if you can kind of watch and listen to the universe and in all the subtle ways that it kind of communicates with you, then my guess is you'll find tons of opportunities, not just for money, but more or less for experiences in all of these spaces, right? Because when you can move into that space, when you can kind of embrace it and open up to it, then, you know, right now you're traveling and you're blogging about floating, and it may lead to this aspect and it may lead to this aspect. And I mean, there's just so much room for growth in that space, especially when you embrace it in such an open way.
Totally. Yeah. I actually got I got a trip coming up to Oman. Never in a million years had I planned to go, because I was there 10 years ago, and I actually have I have a little story about it too, but then I was never thinking that I would go back to it. And then my first paid trip, everything paid, and they pay me for writing and everything, is to Oman. It's to a country where I have so much, so much of a connection with. And it's going to be in January. And then I didn't even think I was going to be on this side of the earth. I was planning on being in, like, you know, South America or whatever. So I'm just like, okay, I'm embracing it. I'm just going to do it. It's fine. The universe will make it work, and I'll trust in the process.
Yeah. Kind of lean into it as best as you can.
Exactly. And that's how things have opened up too. Like the same with the floating.
Did you say you had a story about Oman or?
Yeah. Basically, so I went there, and I was 17 years old. And I went there with my mom and her boyfriend and my brother. And I went out one night, and I was pretty fearless, I have to say. I was 17. You know?
Fearless,
and I went out one night.
Because I was dumb when I was 17.
Naive.
That's
and
a better
dumb,
word.
And yeah. And I went out, and I met a guy that was working at the hotel, and he's like, hey, I want to show you this place, and I've been working for the hotel for 12 years, so you should come with me. And I was like, okay. So we went to a club, and, you know, in Oman, everything is completely different culturally. It's a Muslim country, and people don't show affection and love openly, and it's very different. So I went to what was called a club with him, And I experienced there were only men, and I was the only European woman in there. There were maybe like 2 or 3 women that were totally covered up, and then 2 belly dancers. And it was just such a crazy experience. And then another night I went out and I met a guy who I actually, like 3 days before I left, and we were like, okay, well, let's just try this. Let's just have a relationship. And so we stayed together for 9 months, and I went back to Oman when I was 17 by myself to visit him. And his family, they were not allowed to know about it, and he just got us an apartment, and we were by ourselves there. And then we took a weekend trip, and we went to see some turtles that were laying eggs in the sand, and then we went around Oman to the desert and everything, and saw camels and all that. So it was a great experience. And then he came to Germany for 2 weeks. And then after that, we decided, okay, I don't want to be a Muslim in Oman, and you don't want to be in Germany living with me. So we have to call it quits. But it's fine because we have love and respect for each other. And there's also actually something else I'm really passionate about. I want to show people that just because something is different, like maybe religion, maybe your looks, maybe whatever, it's not bad. It's just different. You can't say just because something in your culture is good and it's bad in the other one.
Jennifer.
Yes.
I'm sitting here thinking, because I have a 17-year-old daughter, and I'm like, there's no way in hell. Like, I have a hard time. She wants to go to school, in some other country. She has all of these big plans, and that's like not a terrible thing. That's like a plot to a really scary movie. The 17-year-old girl that's on vacation and decides to, yeah, sure, strange guy from the hotel, I'll go with you to some club somewhere. And then the next thing you know, you're in some shipping container across the sea somewhere.
But you know what? Please let your daughter study in another country. Please let her do that. Don't take that away from her, because it's the best experience in the world. And, my mom, she didn't want to let me go back to Oman by myself, and my dad didn't either. Like, he was actually at the airport, and he was so, but when my dad is mad, because he doesn't talk, like he doesn't say a word. So I really knew that he was mad, and he was scared. He was afraid. And I was afraid too. I can't lie. Like, I was afraid, but I have to say it was one of the best experiences ever. And I even wrote like a novel about it, but it's finished, but I want to go over it with like an editor and everything. I want to, make it a good book, not just, without any editor or whatever.
That's really neat. That is a cool experience, especially at 17. It's that's an impressionable time period, obviously, in your life, but I'm glad that turned out good for you.
Yeah, don't worry about your daughter if she wants to go to school somewhere else. Going to school somewhere else is fine. She's not going somewhere for another guy.
Yeah, we'll see. She's graduating soon, so we'll see what her journey and all that wonderful stuff takes her. So
I'm sure to good places.
I'll just wrap her up in the universe.
Exactly.
What places, like, if you had an ideal, do you have any sort of, like, what would be your dream place to travel to and float?
I like so many places. I want to go to so many places. I mean, in Brazil, but I don't think there is a float center, if I'm correct.
In Brazil?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
That would be great. I haven't seen any, so I would love to do that in Brazil, and because I love Brazil, and then I would love to do it in South Africa, in really anywhere. In Thailand, I know there's a place in Thailand, and just anywhere.
Do you have plans to come back to the States and travel all the beautiful places? Well, I mean, some places are beautiful here in the States, but
there's a lot of beautiful places in the States.
Yeah.
All the national parks, absolutely. I'm definitely coming back to the States, and I also want to live there when I come back from my travels, and that's where I want to make my home. Like, LA is my home. I have all my friends there. I want to open up a float center there because people there are open to it, and it's going well for the float centers there. So I really want to go back there and check out the national parks and just everything there, because I think it's a great, beautiful country. It's a large country, so there's lots of different stuff too.
Yeah, plenty of places to float. You go up to Canada too. There's lots of float centers up in Canada.
Yes, absolutely. I will definitely go to Canada as well.
Have you been to the float conference?
Not yet. You know what the funny thing was? So my friend, actually, she was like, you should write this article and you should talk about it at the float conference or whatever. And literally 1 weekend after the float conference happened, she told me that. And then like 2 weeks after the float conference happened, the idea of the traveling floater came about. So it was just right after the float conference, and right after I found out about it. So next year will be the first one I will be attending.
Yeah, and I could totally see, I mean, that would be a wonderful, like, you could totally show up to the float conference and share your experiences and your journey and come and speak and all that. I mean, I could see that happening. You should probably try to make that happen. We'll throw that out there so that you can come and
You know what? I'll put that out in the universe and I will make it happen.
Yeah, because I could totally see you up
Yeah.
on stage talk. Cause, I mean, it's next year, right? So you got plenty of time and you'll have plenty of stories and experiences and photos, and that would be really, really cool.
Totally. Yeah, I would love that. I'll make it happen. And I'll meet you. And I talked to Graham a few weeks ago. Also, we did an interview for my page. So I'll make it happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you going to be there?
I'm planning on it. It's a ways away, and you never know where the universe is going to take you, but most likely we'll be at the conference again next year. Yeah. It was a really neat experience this year. This was the first time that I had gone, and it was back in, I think it was August, the end of August is when it was. Mm-hmm. But It was really cool. It was a really neat experience. We got to talk to a lot of people for the podcast, and it was just, kind of mind-blowing in a sense, and it was very, very eye-opening.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but it was fun.
Yeah, I love what you do with the podcast. Definitely spread floating, and yeah.
Yeah, you'd enjoy it. It's a neat experience. And the cool thing is everybody there and everybody in the industry and everybody that I've met and everybody that I've talked to so far, just really, really cool people.
I know, like everybody that I meet, like from every single center, they're just great people, and they're great to talk to, and they're happy and they're relaxed. You don't find that in many other occupations, There's lots of people who are always like, come home from work, oh, I'm stressed, oh, work is so stressful, oh, work is this, work is that. And then people that I talk to in the float industry, they're stressed too at some point, of course, but they're so much more relaxed about it, and just like, yeah, it has its ups and downs and challenges, whatever, but it's all good, it's all fine. We're still relaxed and we're still fine.
Very
so that's
much
a great
so.
thing about it too.
Yeah, that's the beauty of floating, laying back in that salt water.
Exactly. And you if you own a center, you get to do it whenever.
You need to head up to Ireland. I interviewed oh my goodness, it's Vivian McKinnon when we were at the conference, and she's got a float center in Ireland. It's like Northern Ireland. She'd be a great place to go, and she's super cool, and she's, from what I can tell, and from what I can see, she's got a beautiful place, and she's got cabins there, so they're the kind that you like. And
I will put that on my list because right now it looks like I'm staying in Europe for a little longer, so I will definitely put that on my list. In Ireland, my mom just was in Ireland and she showed me pictures, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Really wonderful up there.
So here's a tough question for you, Kay. What is one quality about yourself that you would like to change? That somehow, and maybe I should have formed this question in my head a little bit more before I started to speak, but everybody has qualities, right? Everybody has behaviors and patterns, and sometimes they're positive and sometimes they're negative, even though we just choose to label them that way. But do you have a behavior or a quality about you that kind of continually repeats itself or pops back up in your space that you would like to change?
Yes, I'm working on it too. It's basically just not really let negative things get to me, and really trust more in the universe. Like, it's a work in progress. It's really a work in progress, and things will always push you back, but then you believe in it again, and it's fine. But it's really not staying in a negative space, or not letting things affect me in a negative way. Just being more positive, being more loving, being more caring. Just leave out all the negative. And if something was negative in the past, then just not talk about it, or not bring it up all the time and with all your friends, and bring it up every single day. And then also, if something's negative in your life, then just change it. if you wake up every single day going to a job that you hate or doing something that you have to do every single day that you hate, then you should change it, just because life is too short to live with negative things.
For sure. So do you find that you get stuck in them sometimes where it kind of bogs you down quite a bit, or?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it, because I had a really hard time coming back to Germany because I actually never felt home here. And it was also a lot had to do with family and how I connected with my family. But since I've spent so much time here now, it's becoming better, and I don't feel that negative. I don't have many negative feelings towards it anymore as much as I used to have. It's not like it's still not a place where I would like, okay, I'm going to be home here. I want to make it my home. No, but it's now beginning to become more neutral and more positive. And also the relationship with my whole family has been getting better, especially like with my parents and with my brother. We were never that close, but now since I'm back, it's been getting a lot better. So I'm really happy about that. And
so I have a practice for you. You ready?
Yes.
This is a great practice to kind of incorporate. Because for me, I believe that we're always evolving. I think we're always perpetually moving forward into the space of a higher vibration or into the positive aspects of life, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
And life is a practice, and that's simply, we just have to commit ourselves to the idea and the concept that I'm going to practice something. And then in that space, we fail, even though we're not really failing, we're just practicing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a good practice for you. Before you float, set the intention before you even get into the tank that I'm asking the universe, I'm asking whatever it is, to help me process that personality trait or that aspect about me that I would like to change. Just set the intention, and then when you're in the tank, let it go. Try not to think about it. Try not to dwell on it. Try not to, overanalyze it. That's one of the most challenging things when you float, is kind of shutting your brain off. But if you set the intention beforehand, and then you just lay back in the tank and let the water and let the universe and let that space of energy and everything that happens kind of take over, then a lot of times you can have you can have really neat experiences.
That's a great idea. I'm gonna definitely do this the very next time I'm gonna float. Because I already experienced in Paris, I was in a kind of a bad mood when I got into a tank once, and then I was like, okay, before I went, I set the intention. I was like, okay, I want to come out of this with a really happy mood, with a really great mood. And it was even better than I expected. That I came out and I was like, whoa, this just made me feel absolutely great and amazing and better than I even expected or I had intended.
Yeah.
So it's really great. Yeah, I'll try your practice for sure.
Where are you planning on heading next? Like, where's the next stop?
Plans don't work out as usual, or as planned as we talked. But I'm going to look into Dubai, because they work a lot with travel bloggers and they have places to float. Or like the one woman said that I met in Paris, maybe Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
Or for the end of this year, towards the end, I would maybe look into Thailand.
That'd be super cool.
Yes, absolutely. I already interviewed a center in Bangkok, and they were really nice. So I probably will end up going there.
At some point.
For sure.
Well, way neat. Well, if you ever make it back to the States, there's obviously more than enough places to float here.
I will, and I want to try all of them too.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like the float on guys to just travel all over the States and float.
Yeah, that was a neat thing they did.
Yeah.
You could definitely hop in an RV or rent a car or whatever. I mean, that would be one hell of a road trip, traveling around and hopping in tanks everywhere.
Right? I'm going to do that. That's an idea. Just from East, because I've always wanted to do like a East Coast, West Coast trip. And I'm not going to I'm just going to look up different float centers on the route and then just go and float on the way.
Yeah. It'd be a neat way to see the country for sure.
Absolutely.
When you come through Utah, make sure you reach out, because we've got a center here that you can come float in.
I will, of course, definitely.
And
I was actually there like last year before I found out about floating.
In Utah?
Yeah, I was in Salt Lake City. And I went to Bryce Canyon and then Zion Canyon on the way as well. We did a little road trip from California.
Yeah, it's a pretty state. There's a lot of things, locally here in Utah, and not even that far away. I mean, Bryce Canyon it's not that far from Salt Lake City, and there's just a lot of beautiful stuff. But same thing everywhere across the country, for heaven's sakes. There's plenty of beauty.
Exactly. There's so many places, so many national parks, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So what's the best way for people to find all your information and follow up with everything that you're doing?
The best way are my social media pages, probably Instagram. I post, for everyone who hasn't seen my Instagram page, I post facts about floating. I post actually experience quotes from people who have floated. And I post about the interviews that I've been doing with all the different float centers. And all these interviews you can also find on my website. It's www.travelingfloater.com. And it's connected with my travel blog, Discovering Legacies. So if you see that pop up, don't be surprised. It's still the Traveling Floater page. And also my page, my Facebook page, my name again, Jennifer Schlueter. Probably none of you would know how to spell that. But it's going to be on the podcast. So.
Yeah, we'll have links to everything there for everybody.
Or Traveling Floater Facebook as well, yeah.
Excellent. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been wonderful getting to know you a little bit and hear about some of these experiences. I really, really appreciate it. I'm excited for what you're doing, and I'm excited to kind of keep following up and seeing where you're headed. I think it's a really cool thing.
Well, thank you so much, because I was really excited to talk to you as well. And you're doing a great thing too. So it's really awesome to get to talk to you.
Oh, excellent. And everybody, go out and enjoy the wonderful, beautiful day that's before you. And if you have the opportunity, go get in a tank. And if you don't, then find that opportunity and go find a center and hop inside.
Please do. Definitely. I second that. Replace fear of the unknown with curiosity. It is something that you can actually achieve because you set your mind to it. The universe is looking out for me, basically. I have to trust in it. And I think the world could be so much better if everybody floated.